Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 3 of Vlogmas. So as you can hear, my voice isn't back yet, but I wanted to share some of our Christmas preparation with you. I decided to change some things on the bookshelf to add some festive seasonal reads, so I turned the spines in again to highlight those books. This is only temporary though. I am going to replace the books. I'm going to turn the spines back out once the festive season is over. I'm working on a miniature Christmas tree display on this table, and I'll use my daughter's wooden train set, so when she comes home from school, we'll work on that together. So for right now, it's just here. I also got started on some stocking stuffers for gifts, but aside from that, here are the books that I read last month. Quick recap of my November reads. So the first book that I finished in November was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. And this was a reread for me. I read it because my daughter was reading it in her class and I wanted to be able to discuss some of the things that I found problematic. But rereading it this time with my daughter probably gave me a better appreciation of the story, like how the author talks about consequences of our choices and how sometimes even when all is forgiven, we still have to live with those consequences. So I actually really like this book a lot more the second time than I did when I read it by myself. So recommending that book as well. Next is a book that I spoke about recently. It's actually right here. It's Needle Lake by Justine, Champine. And this one is about a young girl who presents as being on the autistic spectrum. But because she is representing herself to the reader, she just talks about things that people find odd about her, but how that is just how she sees the world. Because it's a first person narration, we get to see the insight. We get to see this young girl presenting her case that this is just who she is. And I really enjoyed that. I really liked the way the author presented this character to the reader. The novel is set in Washington State in the time leading up to Christmas, and the setting was just so vivid and bright. Like, I felt like we really got an experience of being in Washington during this time. I felt like we got a real experience of Washington State in December. Mention of hiking on the Pacific Trail and lake effect snow and all of that. So highly recommend this book for everything that it is. Then I read The Wright Brothers by David McCullough, and this was a deep dive into the lives of the two men who were the aviation pioneers that I think we know their names, but David McCullough gave us an opportunity to see them as people, to see how focused they were on their work and what they gave of themselves to develop this aviation industry, some of the obstacles that they faced, some of the relationships that allowed them to kind of laser in, some of the relationships that sustained them, including their family values instilled by a father who was a religious man but didn't push his children into religion, into religious expression, that it was just enough for him to see his children live a Christian life, not necessarily go to church. And so there's a lot about this book that I love. It's a complete 5-star recommendation. So if you're interested in history, this is a great nonfiction read for you or someone that you love. Then I read The Tell, which is a memoir by Amy Griffin. And in this one, she is coming to the realization of something that happened to her in her childhood, and that she had repressed the memory of it, but she was now able to access this memory because of psychedelic-induced therapy. And so the book is about her acknowledging what happened to her and trying to find justice, but not necessarily being able to pursue a legal case the way she had intended, but maybe having to find closure for herself in other ways. I didn't love this book as much as I thought I would, but there's a lot in it that I found really interesting and that piqued my interest to explore the topic of psychedelic-induced therapy. So this book was very helpful for other things. I read The Bachelors by Muriel Spark, which is a novel set in 1960s London, and we're exploring the lives of unmarried men, why they choose to remain unmarried, how some of them pursue romantic entanglements without any intention to commit to the other person, and also what are some of the pros and cons of the bachelor life. So there was also comparison between spiritual expression and spiritualism, and I thought that the author did a really great job of pursuing those couple of themes and giving us a really interesting story and really interesting characters to bring that story along. So I recommend Muriel Spark's novels for lots of reasons, including that her books are just really interesting and you have no idea how they're going to end. Then I read The Crash by Frida McFadden, who's a psychological thriller author, and the end of this book was not as thrilling as I was expecting it, but it also had a really good resolution for the main character. So I don't know if I am disappointed with how the book ended or very happy about it. I will say that this was not all the twists that I was expecting from this book, but the twists that were there were really interesting. I definitely want to read more from this author, even if only to see whether or not the endings of her books always make me feel good or not. I don't know. Last on the list is a book that I read most of it in November, but I didn't actually finish it until early December, but I'm still including it here because why not? It is The Warden by Anthony Trollope, which was also a buddy read for me. And so I was reading the print version on Project Gutenberg and listening to the audio from my library, and this accompaniment was just so fulfilling because I felt like hearing the text read by someone who has a similar accent to what I imagine the novelist would have really helped me stay immersed in the story. This was a really interesting thought experiment about a man who has a job who other people think he doesn't deserve to have. And it's about how he tries to make good to everyone, including himself, including his family, including the people that he's being paid to take care of, but also to appease the people who are saying that he shouldn't have the job. A very interesting thought experiment that Anthony Trollope takes us on in this discussion about religion and how people who work in religious capacities, what their jobs should be, how it should extend to their parishioners, and so on. Very interesting story. This was my first Anthony Trollope, and I definitely want to read more from him. So those are the books that I read in November. Hope to see you back tomorrow. Hopefully my voice will be better. Maybe I should rest it. But I can't wait to see you for the next Vlogmas video, and I hope you join me for it. Until then, happy reading, happy Vlogmas. Bye!